Victoria is destroying its solar panel industry. Let's have a look. Good afternoon, everyone. Florian Heise here, and welcome to another episode of Heise Says. Got my afternoon stein of coffee, and I thought we'd have a look at this article from the Weekend Australia. It's about rebates in the solar panel industry in Victoria, and how the entire industry is getting a lesson in why the government shouldn't get involved in the free market. So, solar installers, say rebates cast shadow over the industry. Victorian solar installers say the Andrews government's popular rebate scheme is killing the industry, with sales now effectively limited to the tightly capped number of rebates issued every month. This month's capped allocation of 3,767 homes was reached in less than 90 minutes yesterday, as homeowners rushed to receive the $2,225 subsidy. This, cap, a state government cap. This reminds me of, we will produce 60,000 boots this month. The glorious Airstrip 1 will, manufacture so many brushes and combs, and everyone's barefoot. So, the state government sanctioned 3,767. So, Smart Energy Council Chief George Grimes described the scheme as diabolical, with fewer people taking up solar under the scheme than at the same time last year. So is he just annoyed with this scheme or another scheme, considering his entire industry has been propped up by artificial schemes like this that manipulate the market and artificially inflate the cost, or artificially inflate the demand for the products that he's selling? I wonder how many people voted for these schemes, going, yeah, these sounds good, we'll have to support that industry. I wonder how many. It will completely destroy this industry, he said. The government has the gall to say it's a good program. This was their election promise. The $1.34 billion solar homes program subsidizes half-price solar panels for 650,000 households and takes $1,000 off the cost of solar hot waters for 60,000 homes. The scheme's popularity has forced the government to limit the number of subsidies issued each month to around 3,500. Okay? So they're limiting the number of subsidies every month. That's the quota. Well, here it's slightly over. It's more. I mean, what's he complaining about? They got another 267 quota spots. Mr. Grimes said yesterday's frantic uptake meant that 90% of Victorian families had a quote for solar systems and wanted government support had missed out. So there you go. I don't think he understands how it actually works. He said the government should halve the rebate amount and double the number of rebates available to fix the problem. See, that won't fix the problem. That will adjust how many people are actually going for it. So let's have a bit of a look here. We'll do some sketching. Okay, so let's have a look at the supply and demand curve for this sector in Victoria. So what we'll do is we'll have two axes. And I'm just selecting this. So we've got one here and one here. Now, in the bottom axis, we have quantity, okay, which is number, and the top axis, we have dollar sign or price. Okay, I'm just making sure. Yeah, good. This is working. So we've got the number of panels here at the bottom, and we've got the price at the top left. And you've got two curves, okay? You have a supply curve, which is this one here, and a demand curve, which is this one here. Now, normal times, prior to any government involvement, you have equilibrium reached at this point. And the supply of the product is equal to the demand of the product. So this price here, P, is equal to the number of panels that are produced. It's an equilibrium. Okay, this is what normally happens. But here is where it gets a bit iffy. Okay, you've got the government adding an additional price to the sector. So what they'll do, and we'll do this one here, they are adding a subsidized rebate here. So they'll create an expectation. So they say, they essentially create a point where the price is here. Okay, the price is at a lower level. So the demand is up here. So what you would want to happen, suddenly there's a demand for goods. The supply should normally increase, so shift over. So it makes more of that good available. Okay? So you've got a higher level of supply, price is cheaper because there's more efficiencies in the demand, and it all reaches equilibrium. But what has happened is a little different. It's a little different because they haven't really achieved what they set out for. They have, I'll just hide that, they've created a limit, a cap on the entire market. So what they did is, because they set a price at this level, okay, so it was here, and this number, demand, is up here. But because there's an artificial cap on the supply, which probably, would even be, let's just say down here, which is the 3,767 points that they can provide. So they're actually doing the equivalent of dragging the demand curve back over to this point here, where it's a lot lower, because they've now created a price expectation. They've created this expectation here, where the price is going to be lower, where it'll be, taking account, the market has adjusted. Psychologically, there's no incentive for people to purchase panels early or purchase them late. Because what happens, say if you're waiting for this price and you don't get it. You're not one of the lucky 3,700 people to get the quota. You'll just wait a month. Because if you wait a month, you might get it next time. You'll probably get better technology, even if you have to wait a couple of months. So what Victoria have done, by tweaking with their system and offering this rebate, they have capped their entire sector at 3,500, roughly, installations of solar panels in residential properties per month. They've capped it at that. Rather than stimulating the market to increase supply and demand, they have dragged demand back and limited it at this amount here. This amount here. If we go further up, what was actually supplied, 3,767. That's what they've limited it to. So by the state, trying to help and support the sector, they're going to destroy it. They're going to destroy it. It'll create unemployment. So let's jump back here and have a look at this. Back to the article. He said the council, which represents the solar industry, recently polled its Victorian members, and 85% would prefer no rebate to the current scheme. Okay? Because there's probably, honestly, if we go back here, there's probably more demand than what they've got. There's probably more demand here than the amount that they've got, than this here. But there's no incentive for people to pay more than this amount, because there's a price expectation. You just got to wait 30 days and you got another shot in the lottery. There's no point. You'll be paying too much for a similar product. So they've the government, in typical government fashion, when they're trying to help, and they're hoping to increase the industry by pushing the demand curve over and the supply curve over to reach a new equilibrium, they have pushed everything over here. They've sunk demand at a new price because of expectation. It's going to destroy supply. So you're going to have a loss from, say, if this is where it was now, you're going to lose this amount here from the industry. So if this was, say, 5,000 a month, and now we're only 3,767, that's going to be your difference of installations. And that's going to affect, you guessed it, jobs. It's going to affect jobs in the industry. So this is why whenever the government promises to do something or to get involved in the market at any level, even if it sounds good at the voting booth, you need to question it and you need to look at it. Because how could this policy have even been put forward without an economic analysis of the implications for it? Well, you know what happened? They probably thought, oh, the market's overheating too much. We better restrict it. Oh, we don't have enough money. We better restrict it. So back to the article. It's a monumental disaster. The government clearly hasn't heard us. See, that's the thing. These people in the solar industry shouldn't even be having to address this. It should be common knowledge. But I'm starting to realize it isn't. It really isn't. That just means we have to get much louder and much harder. That's what we intend to do. Well, mate, they won't care. You're living in socialist Victoria now. You've got a Labor government. You've got Andrews. He's going to make it one way or another. Essential Solar owner David Bruce said he was making $30,000 a month less since the scheme started and would soon be forced to lay off staff. I'd love to know how many of the people in this industry voted and were pushing for this system because they thought it would help them. They didn't realize that by the government giving out free money, they were shooting themselves in the foot. He said the business would usually take on 50 to 60 jobs each month, but managed only 46 in July and just 20 yesterday. So they only got 20 out of the 3,700 jobs. I'm sure there's some people paying more, but maybe because they're not aware of the scheme. There are companies laying people off. Yep. We almost certainly going to do the same. We can't continue to make 30,000 less each month, especially a small business like this. So yeah, that's the thing. It'll hurt the small businesses. Mr. Bruce said he would encourage scrapping the rebate or halving the rebate and doubling the quantity offered. Okay, well, if they doubled the quantity offered, that means you're just going to cap the industry at what? 7,500 then installations a month. But then the demand for it may reduce because not as many people will be able to then afford the panels. What you really should do is scrap the whole scheme and allow it to stand on its own feet. That's what you should do. But it's too late because Labor's used this to win votes. They need to get the Greens on side because now Labor's dependent on the Greens in pretty much every seat in Australia for their preferences, so they have to do it. So even this industry, a policy that's meant to help the solar panel and the hippie industry or, environmental benefits is destroying it. It's just destroying it. And it's a valuable lesson that people have to realize that anytime the government gets involved in anything to do with the economy, they will bugger it up one way or another. And it's just the way of the law of nature because everything has a consequence. He said another possibility was making the rebate only available for Victorian solar companies. So he wants to lock it into his mob so they only get the benefit. But then what will happen then? They'll just register a business name in Victoria. I mean, come on, guys. Seriously. Clean Energy Council Distributed Energy Director Darren Gladman said the program was threatening the survival of small solar businesses by creating a boom-bust situation. Yes, it most certainly is. Because the majority of Victorians are able to access the program, people are holding off installing solar altogether until they can claim the rebates, he said. Well, yeah, that's because people understand. They're actually building a price expectation into the market. Psychologically, people will not. You would have to be stupid. People aren't stupid. You may feel like that sometimes when you're arguing with them on Facebook, but they're not. They would have to be stupid to pay extra for something when they'll get it cheaper in a month's time. And this is solar panels. This is a long-term investment that's going to take years to pay off. Waiting 2-3 months to get it in is not going to be that big a deal for a 50% reduction. I mean, seriously. Because the government program should not be like trying to buy concert tickets where access depends on whether you can get through in the few hours that it's open. Solar Homes Minister Lisa D'Ambrossi said the government always knew there would be huge demand for the program. Did the government, so Lily, okay, did you get an economic assessment done of the implications of what you were doing? I did a real simple, bloody messy diagram there explaining it. Did you do that? Did you pay the $100 to get a first-year economics student to look at what the implications of this would be? And I'm you want someone who understands a bit about the Austrian school because there's a bit of psychology there and thinking, people, well, I missed out on that 50% discount. I'll just pay more now. because I need my solar panels. Because that 30 days I've got to wait, that $20 worth of power saving I'll get in the month, or $200 power saving in the month. You could think about that. Say you save $300 a month or $200 a month. You could wait 10 months and then pay a full amount. The opportunity cost isn't that significant. The monthly rebate was designed in consultation with industry to provide certainty and ensure the program is rolled out safely over the next 10 years, she said. 10 years. 10 years. So for 10 years, you're going to have a situation where you are capping this sector at this number, at 3,767. That is what you're going to cap it at. You're going to cap it at that number. That is just insane. Let's have a look at another article here. This is from Solar Quote's blog. Gone in 90 minutes, Victoria's solar rebate. So July's allocation of Victoria's solar power rebate went fast, but had nothing on the speed August's quota flew out the door. Again, leaving many disappointed and the state's home solar sector deeper in crisis. July's allocation was fully subscribed within 3 days. August's allocation of rebates for solar power systems was released at 9 a.m. Australian Eastern Time yesterday, and by 10 a.m. the Solar Victoria counter indicated that 977 were left, and 10:45 it was zero. Under 2 hours. So more Victorian solar businesses to go bust. The Andrews Labor government might consider this scheme a rip-roaring success, but more Victorian solar workers will be losing their jobs this month, and more solar businesses will be shutting their doors for good as a result of the Solar Homes PV rebate debacle. And this is a fact the state government is aware of. Now, how many people in the solar industry would have had the guts to come out there and say, no, we should not be doing this rebate? How many? I bet you none. I bet you not one of them. They all wanted it because it's free money for their industry. But now, for 10 years, there's going to be a cap on how much monthly work can happen. How much monthly work can happen. Okay? This is a hard lesson for people to learn because the government is stuffing it up. It's stuffing it up. It should be complete. They should be completely out of the industry. And remember, this is taxpayer dollars. They are taking taxpayer money off people, or probably in Victoria, now probably stamp duty money off people in overinflated houses that they're pumping up. Then they're pumping it into a scheme like this, which is going to destroy an entire sector. So the level of rebate allocations is in effect putting a cap on sales activity. Yep. Prior to this mess, the Victorian residential solar industry had matured and was doing well. Then the introduction of the first phase of the rebate last August saw existing businesses grow and new players enter the market to cater to demand. The demand remains, but Victorians are putting off installing solar until they can secure the state rebate. And some frustrated applicants may give up going solar altogether. Well, no, the demand doesn't remain. You've artificially increased demand. Supply has adjusted because of it, and now it's adjusting back down because they put a quota on the artificial demand growth. That's all that's happening. Among the recommended solutions to the mass rebate is a lowering of the maximum household income threshold. That'll just reduce lowering of the so they want to have less people get access to it, and or halving the rebate, which will allow for doubling monthly allocations. These recommendations have apparently fallen on deaf ears. Of course they have, because this was done for political reasons. The Smart Energy Council says the Solar Homes program has been a catastrophe for the Victorian solar home power sector. So there you go. I mean, this is devastating news for the Victorian solar industry and follows the sudden closure of the program in April and a disastrous July when the scheme was full within 60 hours. A survey undertaken by the Smart Energy Council yesterday of 60 Victorian solar businesses found a staggering 80% of solar businesses polled had either closed or are considering they will close as a result of the Solar Homes program. The SEC states its survey also found 77% of businesses said staff had been made redundant or expected to be made redundant. Solar Quote's founder Finn Peacock's take on the situation: I think the industry has to take legal action. think the industry has to take legal action. You shouldn't have voted in a Labor government that was offering subsidies or rebates. You should have campaigned against it. And I guarantee you there would have been people in your industry that would have shot you down. This fundamentally, this just comes back down to people not understanding. You can have your cake and eat it too. There are always consequences to this type of stuff, guys. Okay? Now, people are saying, oh, Labor's better economic managers than Liberal. You know, all this garbage. You can't manage an economy. It's impossible. It is impossible. It is an emergent outcome with so many variables that to people who think they can manage it and influence might have a little luck here, but the unintended consequences, the butterfly effect, the emergence of the ripple effect of what they're doing is greater than they can measure and assume. You know, it's not the rational, moneyest approach that people think it is. That's falling. You know, we're seeing all these bubbles bust. They're creating one right here. You know, it sounded good. How many of you voted for this in Victoria? How many people would have voted for this? Probably no one who watches my channel, but still, people who would have voted for this and thought, oh yeah, that's good. We need more solar panel, tick. Well, you're just destroying an entire industry. So, a cull with major collateral damage. Victorian Premier Daniel Andrews and Minister for Solar Homes Lily D'Ambrossi have been repeatedly warned the approach to the rebooted rebate will kill off a big chunk of the state's residential solar sector. Hundreds of industry participants and supporters gathered on the steps of Parliament last week to protest the way the scheme is being run. The situation won't just have the nasty knock-on effects of unemployment for many workers and their families, but customers and businesses will have closed their doors, will face challenges with technical and warranty support. Furthermore, competition and choice in the Victorian market will decrease as businesses exit. Well, that doesn't matter. It's because the state is pretty much funding the entire market or subsidizing it. With evidence mounting of the negative impact of this fiasco and the Victorian government continuing to dig its heels in, the question now needs to be asked, is the cull of solar businesses the Andrews Labor government's intention? If so, it's a very nasty way to go about it. The baby is being thrown out with the bathwater as good installation firms are among the victims. Well, sadly, this is the price you pay for making a deal with the devil. This is the price you pay. You're in bed with it. Your industry is now capped at that, and you're going to lose. You're going to lose people who are playing in it. Probably people who are doing it fair. It'll be people who cut the corners. That's what it'll be. Anyway, guys, please like, share, and subscribe. Let me know what you think about this. You know, I'm thinking there needs to be I'm shocked that there wasn't economic modeling done to understand the implications of this policy. This is first year stuff. It's first year stuff. You're introducing a price expectation onto the market that will happen every bloody month like clockwork. You would be insane to not take advantage of it. What were they thinking? They need to. Yeah, well, it's Victoria after all, guys. Anyway, like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you later. Bye for now. See you later.